Joe Biden comes out of hiding to give a press conference. A St. Louis couple defends their house, and they're the ones in trouble. And the 4th of July, no, nay, nay, that's racist. Pastor Marty welcoming you to the afternoon drive. Make sure you're a subscriber to the channel, please. Give this video a thumbs up and a like. Spread it to your social media platforms. Let's get the word out because YouTube is working overtime to suppress this channel. Make sure you smack the bell and click the word all to get notifications of all of my rants. Well, they managed to pump enough super CIA drugs into Joe Biden to keep him somewhat coherent during a press conference, which I'm not even going to bother to cover. I'm not even going to bother to break it down because we know what it was going to be about, that Trump has been derelict in his duties. He hasn't done this. He hasn't done that. Blah, 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 blah. Just remember, Joe Biden is an absolutely corrupt individual. He has been bought and paid for by China. He is their little puppet. He is the guy they would like to see running the country so that he can take a nap while they continue to rape us financially, rape us in our manufacturing, rape us in our intellectual property, to steal, to undercut us, and to outsell us around the globe. Do you really think that a Joe Biden is the guy that ought to be in charge of our economy? Do you really think that a guy who has threatened to mandate face masks would be mandatory? Yet it's Trump that we're constantly being told by the lying leftist, legacy, corrupt, mainstream propaganda media that Trump is this authoritarian that just thinks he could just, with a stroke of a pen and a tweet, just enact his will on all of us. Trump does no such thing. Trump will sound off. He will give his opinions. He'll tell you exactly what he's thinking. But at the end of the day, he's not an authoritarian. The Democrats are. They will govern and rule by strict mandate. There won't be any voting. There won't be any you get to decide. Case in point, look at what's happening around the nation. City councils meeting and voting to defund the police. How do the citizens of those cities feel? City councils meeting and deciding to change names on buildings and schools, etc., etc., etc. All in this name of being, we gotta be racially sensitive. Do you know that the American realtors have decided they will no longer use the term master bedroom? No, I'm not making that up. It's true. They will no longer use the term master bedroom because that obviously is racially insensitive. Can someone please tell me how changing the name of a school or not using a word like master bedroom somehow lifts up impoverished people, somehow helps make life better for people who are seemingly not doing so well? This is just more white liberal virtue signaling crapola. It is just, and you would think that black Americans would be the ones right now screaming and speaking out against this type of just utter hogwash. This is absolutely nothing. But as we watch them topple statues, of course, Joe Biden really didn't have a whole lot to say about that because after all, it's the orange man that's got to go. He's bad. And if you allow a Joe Biden to cross the finish line and become the president, what do you think he'll do when a Fauci Stein says, oh, we got to shut everything down? You better believe he's going to clamp it down. You'll be wearing face masks. You'll be wearing burqas. You'll be lining up for the mark of the beast. Enter Joe Biden. That's why it is absolutely imperative Joe Biden cannot be elected the next president of the United States. Americans have absolutely had enough of what's happening and the police and politicians doing nothing about it. Case in point, citizens in New York stood up and said, you're not removing the statue of Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt, the most popular of all of the American presidents. And they want to take it down, and they want to replace it, by the way, with a statue of Robin Williams. That's their great proposal. Well, then they're talking about, well, we'll just move the statue. Well, if it's that offensive, it's got to come down. Why would you move it? See, all of this absolute trying to obliterate American history, trying to just erase the greatness of this country and mask it as somehow it's, well, these are just racially insensitive. All bullhock. Absolute, utter, total bullhock. Enter Ken and Karen. Not their real names, They live in the suburbs of St. Louis, and by now you have seen the video coverage ad nauseum. They live in a gated community. They live in a very big house. Looks like all I could think of was when I watched the video was, wow, is that where they filmed the Beverly Hillbillies? It looks like the Clampett Mansion. And they were in their backyard, back porch area, back terrace, having dinner when a group of protesters kicked open, destroyed the metal gate which says no trespassing. And they were just marched on in. Now, we're told by the media, these are peaceful protesters. These are peaceful protesters. No, they were armed. And again, these people, they've been watching news reports. These so-called peaceful protesters who have been burning, looting, murdering. You know, it's funny. In the so-called safe zone, the autonomous zone of Chaz or CHOP, depending on which political narrative you buy into in Seattle, how many people have been murdered? How many people have been beaten? How many people have been killed since George Floyd? All in the name of peaceful protest. So what did this couple do? They didn't know if they were coming to burn their mansion down, loot, riot, pillage, rape, murder. So they came out and they greeted them with firearms. Now, they didn't discharge them, and it's very obvious in watching the video, these two yuppies have never even held a firearm in their life. They bought them. They really ought to take some type of course in knowing how to handle a firearm. They didn't shoot anybody, but they made it clear, get off our property. And of course, it's great because all of the protesters there had their cell phones out and they videoed the whole thing, so there's plenty of evidence to prove this was self-defense. Absolute self-defense. And it's another sign that Americans ain't taking it anymore. This is enough. And I don't know the political ideology of these people. They might be flaming liberal, but they didn't want a house that they bought that they've obviously spent lots of money and lots of their own personal time in restoring, refurbishing, bringing back to its former glory. You think they wanted it spray painted, torched, burned? No. They said that's it. They called 911. Police didn't come. They called for their closed community, restricted community, private security detail. They didn't come. So they went out with firearms, exercising their Second Amendment rights to stand their ground and defend their property. Good for them. Good for them. But of course, they're being vilified on Twitter. They're being vilified by the leftist, corrupt, lying legacy, mainstream propaganda, Goebbels media, CNN, PMSNBC, just vilifying these people. They got doxxed, had their name and address information put out there. They've been threatened now. Well, I hope they've learned a lesson. I hope they never again vote for a single Democrat. This is absolutely unbelievable, and I'll be heartbroken if they come out later and, take a knee and issue an apology. Well, I'm sorry. We should have let you come in and just burn our house down. We're so privileged, and I'm so sorry. Please do not do that hogwash. It's like watching Republican governors first stand the line and we're not reclosing our states. We're not going to do it. And now we're watching them do it. Why? Because they're so convinced that they will be blamed by voters for deaths. Now, here's what you got to do at this point. You lay out the facts, whatever they might be, because we don't really know what they are right now. Fauci's lying through his mouth. The so-called experts aren't experts on anything. We're 5 months into this thing, and they can't tell us any more now than they did initially. You've got Governor Cuomo, that insaniac over in New York. He keeps adding states to the list who will be quarantined if they come into New York. And that's all a diversionary matter, a diversionary tactic so that we don't notice how he killed people in nursing homes. And he did. He killed them. His directives. And they totally went beyond anything that the federal government was recommending. Notice that word recommending, that initially where you could put people who were COVID positive to free up hospital space, you could, quote, store them in nursing homes. Well, Cuomo didn't just recommend, he mandated. And then he turned around and he blamed the nursing homes. Well, if you didn't have enough face masks and you weren't properly prepared to deal with this, that's on you. No, it was on you, Mr. Governor. You are a murderer. And we knew that the day you signed the most radical legislation in the country legalizing abortion right up to the very moment of birth. You're a murderer, period. So you can deflect all you want, and simple-minded New Yorkers who apparently don't mind living in this never-ending lockdown, quarantine, house arrest, you know, sadly, a lot of them will vote for your reelection. That's the great tragedy of all of this, because America's become collectively stupid. And you know, sometimes there is something to the old adage, society became too stupid to know how to survive. And this is where you have to start standing up, speaking up, and pushing back. And that leads me to the 4th of July. Is your local municipality celebrating the 4th of July this year? Probably not. Now, you're no doubt being told it's because of social distancing and COVID and yada, 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 blah, 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 crapola. No, here's what it is. 4th of July is bad. It's racist. It was founded by slave people. It was founded by slave owners. Slaves were not free on Independence Day. They have no freedom to celebrate. We need a new Independence Day. And municipalities, even those run by Republicans, don't want to deal with the aggravation. Because after all, you know, what is the 4th of July really? It's a day to eat hot dogs, go to super 4th of July sales, barbecue in the backyard, and, you know, we can do America's birthday quote anytime. So, you know, well, maybe we'll make Juneteenth the new Independence Day. Hey, that'll be it. That'll be it. You know, that's when the Emancipation Proclamation was finally finalized and the last remaining slaves in the state of Texas were set free. We'll make that the new Independence Day. The municipality I live in, they're going to do fireworks on September 4th. Once again proving they're PC and wanting me to be culturally sensitive. Well, what makes them think it's going to be any, quote, safer virus-wise on September 4th than it is right now? So I'll tell you what we're doing at our church. We're doing a fireworks display. I call it the 4th on the 3rd. Red, white, and boom, baby. And I know there are other churches doing that. And I am encouraging you, if it's legal in your area, buy fireworks, host a big fireworks thing in your backyard. Get a bunch of neighbors together and do a neighborhood thing. But the 4th of July must be honored. It must be remembered. It must be celebrated. And let me remind those of you that are protesting and saying, oh, it's not my holiday. The only reason you have the right to say that is because of what happened on July the 4th, 1776. Now, you may not have been emancipated into the system immediately, but you were emancipated into the system because despite the fact that our founding fathers were not perfect, they were very flawed human individuals. Yet at the same time, they framed together a constitution and a government that the ideals that they put into place were nearly perfect. And those ideals set you free. And today, I would argue that black Americans are the most prosperous black people on the planet. We have genocide happening in places like Africa. Is that racist to say that it's black on black killing? Well, Black Lives Matter, apparently not, because they really don't pay any attention to all of the black on black murdering that happens every single weekend in the city of Chicago. I'm just astounded when I hear even black Americans who have lived a relatively good life. They've achieved the American dream. Their kids have done well. When I hear them say, well, the 4th of July is not my holiday, I'm floored by that. I really am floored by that. Because again, that great experiment called America, which was birthed in that act of telling the crown where to go, and then the war that ensued to make it happen. And yes, it would take nearly another 100 years for all Americans to be able to say, I'm free, but it happened. And it started with that ideal on July the 4th, 1776. And for that, America needs to be honored and celebrated. And again, we're losing our history because we're not teaching anything in total context. And that's the great tragedy. Hey, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. And again, give us that thumbs up, spread the word.